Proverbs 31. Everyone writes and talks and preaches about Proverbs 31 all the time. Did I just pick the most cliched Christian topic for women? Or is there something more to say about Proverbs 31 that's encouraging and beneficial to you? Well, obviously I think that I have something to say, and I really hope it is encouraging and uplifting. So if you've been following me a bit recently, you know that I've written a whole series on Proverbs 31, and part of that was republished in the Reformed Perspective magazine, and the whole series is now available as a free ebook on my website as long as you sign up for my newsletter. So that's a great way to get the whole series. But the obvious question is, why Proverbs 31? Proverbs 31 is about women. But haven't the same tired sentences about Proverbs 31 been said over and over and over already for a long time? Aren't you supposed to be creative and unique, Harma? Well, I wrote this because I thought there was something that people were not saying. So I'm going to read a few relevant parts of my introduction, and you can tell me if this is something people are not saying. I really hope you find it encouraging and uplifting. Lots of women do feel intimidated by Proverbs 31. We feel as if we were to meet her in real life, we would only meet with judgment. We react to her as if she is a standard that points out all our inadequacies. And authors who write about her know this. They feel compelled to include an apologetic paragraph somewhere near the beginning of their article. Don't worry, everyone comes from a different life situation. Don't worry, this woman appears to be rich and you might not be. Don't worry, everyone is unique and not everyone needs to live up to this passage in the same way. A recent article I read started off with, reading Proverbs 31 can be discouraging. Who can live up to such expectations? The first reaction to her is to downplay her a little and make her more approachable. The assumption is that an unsoftened look at the woman in Proverbs 31 will lead to discouragement. The assumption is that the first emotion this passage will raise in us will be negative emotions, and that these negative emotions will need to be navigated and managed before we can get anything useful out of this passage. And I don't deny that this is often the case, that these are often the emotions stirred up by this passage. But I don't think this needs to be the case. It should be possible to reframe this passage as a whole from discouraging and disheartening to uplifting and inspiring. Maybe the Proverbs 31 woman can be encouraging without being softened. Actually, I know it's possible. I've often read this passage with a sense of excitement, a sense of possibility. In contrast to many human writings, it does not downplay the capabilities of women, and it acknowledges and appreciates them and urges the rest of society to do so. It is not a passage that needs to be clarified with the sentence, "Oh, this applies to women too." It is directly applicable. However, this woman can clearly inspire either excitement or discouragement in many women. What causes the difference? Can she be inspiring to everyone? One problem is that we tend to think of ideals in the wrong way. The woman in Proverbs 31 is an ideal, and ideals are judges. Ideals are meant to draw out attention to the gap between them and us. They do give a verdict on our conduct by demonstrating the ways we fall short. But ideals are meant to be a vision of what could be, of what we can strive for, rather than a standard that is meant to crush and punish us. They aren't there to push us to quit, but instead to give us a vision of a different way to live. When presented with an ideal, we feel like ideals force conformity on us, like they tell us all to be the same and can only make us feel bad about ourselves. But instead, the power of ideals is that they can open our eyes to a better way of living. In that way, they are not limiting, but rather are a demonstration of opportunities we would have never imagined in our current circumstances. After all, children look to their parents to see what it's like to be a person who can accomplish more than what their childish limbs can manage. They can't do what their parents do, but they can imagine growing into a future where they will be able to do more. When they look to their parents, they can see an example of how to live a life they have never yet experienced, an adult life. And Christians are inspired by Christian role models too. Paul, the apostle, advises the Corinthians to imitate him as a model in their Christian life, as an example of a more mature Christian in 1 Corinthians 11. Having examples can be freeing rather than limiting, because we see how different lives than ours can be lived. Yes, visions of what could be are intimidating. But to erase them is to limit ourselves only to what exists right now. And this is the way I think the woman in Proverbs 31 can function. She can demonstrate the power of a virtuous woman and lead us in turn to feel enthusiasm about what is possible for us in our femininity. After all, it doesn't take much for us to feel ground down in our femininity. We're confronted daily by negative portrayals of silly women, clingy women, bullying women, or passively helpless women in the media, online, or just mentioned in general conversation. Is there any vision of a woman being a woman in a positive way? Yes, there is. When we need a picture of a woman exercising female traits and positively affecting the world around her as a result of being a woman, we can look to Proverbs 31. We can look to Proverbs 31 and begin to heal from our doubts and worries about womanhood. There are many things a woman can do, even a very traditional woman, such as this woman. She can be strong, both physically and mentally, even though we're tempted by negative images to believe we're doomed to be fragile and unstable. She can be effective, even though we're afraid we'll only be passive and ineffective. And she can be courageous, even though we're worried and anxious. In this way, she is purely encouraging. We are not fated to be that taunting caricature of ourselves that may live in our imagination. When we need to insist our womanhood is a gift God has given us in the world, she is on our side. If this sounds really interesting to you, you can always subscribe to my newsletter to get some more. It's also on my website, parts of it, which I'll put down below. If you really liked it, I can do another video with a little bit more of this series. And as always, like, share, subscribe, tell everyone if you really enjoy these videos, and I'll keep making more. Have a great day.